Y'all back.
It's halftime Howie here, and every now and then I like to have Rocco, a movie critic, and Rich Kaplan, our aviation expert, collaborate. And a lot of people who watched America's Got Talent, very inspirational contestant this year was Keshi. She was a young girl, and Rich will expand on this, that was in an airplane crash out of like 150 people. She was the only survivor. And she didn't let her injuries, her face being burned, stop her from her great musical talents. But Rich, why don't you talk about the flight that she was on, and truly from an aviation's standpoint, how miraculous it is to be the only survivor out of a plane crash of 150 people, and she was the only one that survived. Let's talk about that aspect.
Absolutely, Howie. Keshi, I hope I can pronounce his last name, Okawuchi, has a plane crash survival story that is no less a miracle. On December 10, 2005, she was traveling with 116 people on Sosalino Airlines Flight 1145, which was flying from Abuja to Port Harcourt, South Africa. As reported, the plane crash landed at the Port Harcourt International Airport, costing the lives of nearly all the passengers. In the end, there were only 2 survivors, including Okushi. 15 minutes to the end of the flight, the pilot announced that we were soon to land, these are her own words, at the Port Harcourt Airport. She remembered sitting in an aisle seat, and her close friend Toki was sitting on the aisle seat to her right. The ensuing turbulence was getting very frequent, but I didn't think too much of it at the time until someone in the back of the aircraft shouted, "Is this plane trying to land?" She could not see out the window from her seat, but when you think about it, that was probably for the best. Everything was so surreal in that moment. She turned to her friend Toki and held her hand. They both began to pray. Before she could even start, there was a sudden shrill, and the next thing she remembers, she woke up in the hospital at Mill Park Hospital in South Africa. She does not remember the actual impact of the crash. Okawushi and another passenger were the only 2 people to survive the crash. Keshi had partially lost her vision in the accident and moved to Texas. She had sustained burns to 65% of her body. She placed 5th on America's Got Talent, and she has undergone well over 75 surgeries to get to where she is now. When she regained consciousness, the first voice she had heard was a nurse. I knew things were very bad, but the nurse stood by her side through the whole entire ordeal. The most important piece that a lot of people, I'm sure, ask is what keeps her going, and that's her friends and family. Basically, what I think happened was this aircraft hit what's known as a microburst. And I've discussed microbursts in the past. And a microburst is a downdraft. It forces the jet literally into the ground. It's very hard to gain control. Pilots fear it. We have systems installed at JFK to detect it. But back then, 2005, we knew very little about it. And the wake turbulence, I believe this aircraft flew into wake turbulence, and the turbulence was so severe it created a downdraft and forced it into the ground. They had no chance. And the impact was so surreal and so intense that it burned the entire fuselage of the jet.
Wow, amazing. Now let's go to the other aspect. Her incredible music career and the way she inspired millions during her performance of America's Got Talent. So for that part of the story, let's go to Rocco. Pasafume.
Thank you very much, Howie. The thing that in addition to this incredible story that Richard provided as background, the thing that I would like to add to it is that she's the very definition of what people love so much about America's Got Talent. And the thing about America's Got Talent, I mean, as somebody who used to watch Simon Cowell's other program, The X Factor, when it was on in America, Simon Cowell's a real knack for picking people with very interesting and compelling stories. And I feel like that Keshi is definitely a definitive aspect of what people love so much about America's Got Talent, is the fact that here's this woman who went through so much adversity, and she comes on the show and blows everybody away with her talent. And you really get this like kind of 1-2 punch of just, you know, really feeling like this woman came a long way to get where she is today in terms of you know, the hardships that she's been through. And like I said, I think that's one of the things that made this this contestant just a favorite with people during this past season. I think that's why America's Got Talent has only gotten more popular in the years since it first aired. Like I said, it's just one of those things that, you know, it's ironic because Simon Cowell, he was originally a judge on American Idol, and he was always the bad guy. But on this show, he's kind of, you know, did a complete 180 with his own show and do something where it's not so much about, you know, who has the talent, who doesn't, and the kind of punching holes into people's egos about, you know, their hopes of being a singer. But the fact that this woman who, you know, really, like I said, who've been through so much hardship, the fact that she really got to show off her gifts as a performer, that's a real gift to the music industry. And I really feel that that's one of the things that's made, you know, Simon Cowell's programming, you know, just kind of a cut above, you know, the things that he had been doing before in American Idol, like not only, like I said, with America's Got Talent, but with X Factor before it. So, like I said, in short, she definitely is the definitive example of what makes America's Got Talent like such compelling television. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rocco, Rich, great job, and covering the different aspects of a very inspirational story on America's Got Talent.